Yes, ma'am.
I'm dying to know, did you ever hear from the agent?
Oh, she wants to know if I ever heard from my former agent. I did not. I heard from his boss. Yeah, there was a rights issue over my first book, Raven Stole the Moon, which went out of print, and a foreign publisher wanted to acquire the rights to it, and it was still attached to my previous agency, so there was a little bit of a difficulty there. So I called up the boss of this agency to say, you know, what are we going to do about this? And she said, Garth, I can't go to lunch in New York without hearing your name. But you know what? To give them credit, I mean, they were very nice. She gave me back the rights to the book so that my new agent now has them. And Raven Stole the Moon, which is my first book, a spiritual thriller that takes place in Alaska, where my mother is from, deals with Tlingit Indian mythology, which is my mother's side of the family is Tlingit Indian. Deals with a kind of a cool myth called the Kushtaka, which is a shapeshifter. And at core, it's a story about a woman coming to terms with the death of her child, but it's also this sort of magical realism world in there. Raven Stole the Moon is being republished by Harper, paperback, on March 9th, and will be available at this bookstore. So if you're interested in it, I hope you pick up a copy. Yes, sir, in the back.
My dominatrix pushed me out the front door tonight and said, you have to thank him for the best read I've had in years. So what is the title of the next book that's coming out?
Of my next book, what's the title? You know what, I have a title. I'm not going to tell you. Sorry. It's kind of like a baby name. If I say it and then someone makes a face, I'll like walk around depressed for 3 weeks. And plus, it may change. You never know. Books are, you always think you know what you're doing when you start it, and it's a process of discovery, and it may change in nature, and then maybe another title will suit it better. So I'm going to withhold that, but I am working on my new book. I hope to turn it into my editor on June 1st. Haha, right? And it's a Northwest tale about a grand, once extremely wealthy and influential logging family, now fallen from grace. So they have nothing left except their 12-room dilapidated mansion that sits on a bluff overlooking Puget Sound. And so it's this big kind of family drama that deals with a lot of intense issues, and it's narrated by a ghost. It spans about 150 years in Seattle history, so it's going to be pretty cool. There are no dogs and there are no race cars, though. Sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any rule that says you can't be Enzo's voice? Because as I heard you read that, that is the voice I heard of that dog when I read the book. It's your voice. And I'd never heard you read before, but that was the dog.
Yeah, you know what? That would be interesting. I don't know. I have to talk to my producer about that. No, you know what? Honestly,
everybody agree?
Listen, I think it'd be fun. That sure would be fun. But here's the problem: as my wife has made it very clear to me that I don't take direction well at all. Like I fight and I kick and I scream and then eventually I capitulate because I realize that I'm wrong. But it's only after I throw a big fit. And so I don't think. I used to do a lot of acting when I was younger, and God, I guess I was more flexible then, but now I'm not sure that, I don't know if the director would tolerate me.
Are you writing the screenplay, though?
The question is, am I writing the screenplay for the film? No, I am not. I'm not doing any writing for the film except signing my name on the back of a check. You know what? It's a whole different medium. It's an entirely different medium, and for me, the book is the book, and to translate it into a screenplay, you know, you might as well ask me to translate it into a haiku. You know, it's that much, because things have to change, and it's best to leave it to the professionals. And I have to take a page from Tom Wolfe's book, you know, Tom Wolfe's guidebook. Tom Wolfe said you should never have anything to do with your book being made into a film, because if it's horrible, you can say, look what they did to my book. And if it's great, you can take all the credit. But as soon as you have anything to do with it, it's all your fault. So. You had a question, young lady?
I did. Who's Muggs?
Who's Muggs? I'll get to you next, don't worry. Muggs, the book is dedicated to Muggs, for those of you who have noticed. Muggs was my childhood dog growing up. Muggs was an Airedale. That's why Enzo kind of wonders if his sire, might have been an Airedale. You know how it is with a family dog? they're for the family, but there's always one primary relationship they have. For like with my dog now, Comet, you know, when I come home, she wants to come and hang out with me, and that's the way it was with my father and Muggs. When I was a teenager, I grew up with Muggs. She was a member of the family, and when I was a teenager and she was getting old and her hips had gone and she couldn't stand up on her own and she was incontinent, it was clearly time. And I remember my father coming home from work early. I was a teenager. My father came home from work early. He was wearing his suit and tie and everything, and he took Muggs and he put her in the back of the car. He had to lift her in because she couldn't get in on her own, and he took her away, and he came back without her, and he didn't say a word about it. He went to her cupboard where he kept all her stuff, the bowls and leashes and everything, and he took it all and he put it in a plastic garbage bag, and he tied it up and he put it out by the garbage cans, and he never said a word. So now when I wrote this book, I dedicated it to Muggs, but I didn't tell my parents I was doing that. You know, they had read a manuscript of it, but they hadn't seen the final copy. And when the finished book was done, you know, my publisher FedExed me the first copy, which I have here. And my parents happened to be over that day because they live nearby, and they sometimes babysit the kids. And so I was in the kitchen, and this thing or package arrived, and my father was standing next to me, and I opened it up, and there was the book. And I said, "Hey, Dad, check it out. Pretty cool, right?" And he took it up, and he looked at it, and he said, "Wow, this looks really great." And he opened it up, and he saw that it was dedicated to Muggs, and he started to cry. Aww. So I got him. I don't want to keep you too long. I want to take this young lady's question because she's been waiting so patiently, and then we're gonna, because if you guys want me to sign books, we better get started. So yes, ma'am.
What's your favorite book that you wrote?
What's my favorite book that I wrote? That's an excellent question, actually, and I have to answer it in a trick way. My favorite book that I wrote is the last book that I wrote. It has to be. See, because you change as a writer. You change and you evolve and you get better. And so the last thing you're doing had better be the most favorite thing you've ever done and the best thing you've ever done. And if it isn't, you're not done yet. So right now, my favorite book is The Art of Racing in the Rain, but I'm working on this new favorite book, and it's going to be really, really favorite, but I'm not going to stop it. I'm not going to say, "Oh, well, it's good enough. The Art of Racing in the Rain was really my favorite book, but this is okay. People will accept this." No, I'm going to keep writing it until it becomes my absolute favorite book and becomes the best thing I could possibly do. And if I don't do that, then you and I don't have a relationship, and I want to keep our relationship. So thank you so much for coming. I'm going to have to go because we're going to get out of here.